group site, and then
I
there we
think we are live on YouTube.
Yep, we live. It says something about live stream.
All right. Yeah. Well, we are on YouTube. Welcome. What's up, everybody? We are live.
Where Marc at?
Wakanda whiskey, bourbon and Blerddom with our buddies here from Black Cotton. Patrick, Brian Hawkins.
Black Cotton.
I don't know what happened to Marc. He just disappeared.
Marc said his Zoom is updating.
Oh Lord.
It's just one of these days, huh?
When you have that bad scotch.
Yeah.
He said, my Zoom started updating when I logged on. Hang on a sec. Let me tell you
every time.
This is very unprofessional.
It's like he's drinking scotch with no S, just scotch.
Maybe that scotch went straight through him.
Welcome back, Marc.
Anyway, so what's going on, fellas? Tell me what's going on with you.
Oh man, just living life, man, in the moment. Trying to be in the moment all the time. Zen out.
Yeah, same here.
That's what's up.
Same here. Working hard though. I mean, we wrapping up this story arc, working on the next story arc. Excited about that. Excited about the trade paperback coming out in January. That was crazy. For us.
Oh, back up. There's a trade paperback coming out in January.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 444 pages.
400. What?
No, 144 pages.
Oh, 144 pages. All right. That's going to be issues 1 through 6.
Yeah.
Through 6 with a little, a little back matter in there.
Sweet.
Yeah. But
Marc, can you hear us? Are you there?
Working on some treats.
I can.
You got that
Marc,
second
go ahead
bottle?
and start them talking about this art that I thoroughly enjoyed reading.
Looking like Black Colonel Sanders.
Shout out to KFC, Kentucky Fried.
Right.
Prefer.
To y'all fans out there, collectors, be very careful when you handle this comic. I touched it with my greasy fingers here. I did a permanent fingerprint right here, right now. Black covers. This is great because black covers on comic books are always valuable because they're so damn hard in good shape. They are. It's just the nature of the beast of black comics, black covered comics. But I think it's apropos that such a fantastic issue was done with a more delicate cover. It just makes it that much more special.
This one seems thicker than the other ones. Was there more content in this one than the other 4?
I'm trying to remember how many pages.
Me too.
Was.
I know that
8 maybe.
I think it was a couple of more pages.
Yeah.
And we reduced issue 6 because 6 was going to be 36 pages, but then due to the time, the deadlines that we were trying to meet, we reduced it. And we almost put it back in when all that craziness of shipping happened.
Right.
It was like how you forget to ship the Black comic book.
Right. Well, there's your answer right there. But when I was reading it, I read it about an hour ago, and I was thinking, damn, this is a lot of content in here. And it just seems more heftier than the other one. So, and one thing that I just realized and just noticed is that unlike, books from the big 2, there are no ads or anything in there.
No ads.
Yeah, it's just straight content, nothing but content. How do you guys know why they don't have ads? And B, how do they make their money without the ads? If you know.
I think. Go ahead, Brian.
No. If you want to go first, you can.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that's one thing that they're trying to sort of make the Scout thing is that you're gonna get more content right now. Because they're relatively still on making a name for themselves. So therefore, they're building the name and the brand, and by giving people exactly what they want to buy, which is the comic book and the content. And what I love, to be honest, is the web store, the variants. If you check out the paper on that, it's different. I mean, it is definitely sturdier and heavier, and it's
in this
glossier.
book, in this issue.
Well, the web store, the variant issues. That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The variant issues. Yeah. So I think that's what they're definitely doing right now. Maybe in the future they will add ads, but it has to balance out, because you guys think about it. The more pages you add, the more money it costs for making the comic book, which means those ads have to balance out. Right.
Yeah. So and with Marvel and DC, right? Everything work for hire. They own the IP. So like they're paying everyone for their creativity and to make the book. And so a way to kind of bridge that cost is, of course, to bring in ads. And plus they're also trying to advertise the other stuff that they have going on too. But with independent comic books, with indie comics, there's no cost. Scout isn't paying a page rate to artists or to writer or to letterer. It's all our stuff. So their cost isn't the same as Marvel and DC. So to run an ad, in another person's book, I mean, and I think that's important to understand. Like Marvel and DC, that's their book. The writers do not own that book. Right. Whereas Image and Vault and Scout, etc., the creators own that book, and the publishing houses are publishing the book. So the ownership is different. And I would imagine that, to run the ad, that would be a conversation, between the creators and the publisher.
But that'd be a conversation I would love to have. Right. Because that's more money.
Right.
More money.
As the owners of this intellectual property, can you guys go out to Nike as an example and say, hey, we've got this book, it's selling this many units. Do you guys want to put an ad in our book for this amount? Do you guys have the ability to do that?
That's a great question. I think that would be a conversation, the same way that I would imagine that they would, have to have a conversation with us. We would have to have a conversation with them, because it's still them putting the book out.
Right.
So it's all about, that open line of communication and what works best for the uniformity of the company, and also for, the IP itself.
I was reading something recently, another independent book. I can't remember because I'm reading so many now, but there was the story, and then the last 3 or 4 pages were ads for books other than that come from that same publisher or whatever. And I noticed, I didn't notice that in your book either, but I was just something that I was paying attention to, just something I thought about.
Boom Studios, they do that.
That might, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's in Eve. It's in every.
That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Yep. I just read Eve yesterday. So yeah, that probably was it. Yep. That's it.
I think that's something that we could definitely down the line, as we evolve Black Cotton and I wouldn't say just Black Cotton, as we evolve Brian and Patrick, I'll say, catalog of comic books, and if they're still on under Scout too. Because we don't have to release everything under Scout. That's the beauty about it.
Right.
So if it's under Scout, then I think we could do that.
Black Cotton Creators Presents.
Right. Yeah.
Now, from a business standpoint, do the two of you have a company together or just some type of partnership that you create this book?
Right now, it's a partnership. We've discussed what it could grow into potentially in the future. We've had lengthy discussions about just ideas and growth, and all we're waiting for is time to kind of catch up with our ideas and see what manifests.
That's a good place to be, that you guys have so much going on creatively that you don't even have time to deal with the business aspect of things. That's not a bad place to be.
Well, we're still dealing with the business. That's one of the things that we've keyed in on, is that we, as much as we try to create, we're really looking at the business side of things, of publishing, of comic books, of this IP. Because as an independent creator, I feel that we have to handle and think the same way that Marvel, DC, and Image think. And you have to understand that while it's fun, and I say you in the general sense, it's fun to create, it's fun to tell these stories, and it's part of life's passion, and in the human condition, human experience, it's also a business. And so you kind of have to have this emotional side to it, but you have to have this rational, logical side.
X's and O's and bottom line.
Absolutely. It's very much like what you were describing when we were talking before about like that lawyer thinking, that critical thinking versus that emotional thinking. And a lot of people want to come into this, and I've been there on this emotional level of like, I'm getting my story put out there. Yes, that's great. But
money.
Yeah, because that's the only way you're going to be able to keep telling your story and to grow, is if you also look at the business side of it. Stephen King is Stephen King, not just because he told great stories, but because his business side has been handled.
Right.
Well, and we're going to talk about this issue, Black Cotton 5, in a second, but along the lines of what you were just talking about with the business side of it, Rodney Barnes made a big announcement today about joining Substack.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yes.
You didn't see that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. That's his newest release. Just came out.
What is that, Brian? Brian, hold that back up and say
Army of Darkness, 1979.
Army of Darkness. Yo, I went to the comic book store today. I made a special trip because I missed this when I went on Wednesday.
Right.
And I saw someone on Twitter. See, this why social media actually does work, like for good sometimes. I saw someone post an Army of Darkness, said Rodney Barnes. I said, what? I didn't know it was out already. So I said, yo, I'm going back. So I went and I copped this. It was only like 2
Rodney
left.
Barnes has a bunch of stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Get a chance, go back to the Facebook page, look at the post I made on his post. And he announced in an article all the things that he's got going on. And this deal with Substack that he's doing, much of what he's doing is going to be released on that platform.
Yes.
It seems to be the way of the future. So I wanted to get you guys' input on the concept of Substack. The X's and O's of it make sense as a creator to be able to control what you make and benefit from what you make. That's a no-brainer. It's a new platform. What can you tell us about how that platform works? And do you think that is the future of comics?
I would say, it's funny that you brought that up, because going back to conversations that me and Brian, have had for the past 3 weeks, we've had some in-depth conversations over Substack. And it goes back to what Brian was talking about, the business, critical thinking. That is a key point for anybody who is trying to operate in this environment. There's 2 things that you have to consistently, stay in control of. One is your emotions, and number 2 is the business. Understand it. It's almost like churches. It's funny how people go to church, but then you have that segment of people that understand the church is a business. It has to operate as a business for it to remain where it is. The same in the comic book world is that if you're not keeping your emotions in check and running your race like a business, meaning the thinking and also thinking about what's coming in and where is the comic book industry going, then you're going to get left behind, just like a bunch of these churches when COVID hit. A lot of them are not coming back because they got left behind. And speaking with Substack, that was a conversation that me and Brian really had. We were looking, okay, here's where the comic book industry is. What are some key, places that future big name comic book artists, comic book creators, where are they going? And we started looking at it and we saw Substack, and then we started doing a deep dive there too. And you know what? I would venture to say you might see Black Cotton on Substack definitely in the near future.
For those who don't know, like myself, what is Substack?
Go ahead, Brian.
So Substack is a mail listing newsletter platform. I believe they're based out of San Francisco. I could be wrong about that, but I think they are. And so they basically, I've read some articles. They've been wanting to get into the comic book game. And so they basically, they went after high profile writers,
Donny Cates,
creators, from Marvel and DC. James Tynion being one, who had a 3-year, $200,000 supposedly exclusive deal with DC on the table, and Substack countered that, came in, dropped it on there, and said, "Hey, look, here's this $500,000 deal for upfront,
and you get to control your characters,
and you control all your IP, and then we'll split, and then they have a profit split based off of subscriptions. So there's tiers of subscriptions, very much like Patreon, where his mailing list subscribers will get first access, or they even have an option for print level books. But after the digital option through the mailing list runs its course, he has the opportunity to then publish physically those books with any publisher he wants. So it's a no-brainer. Of course, you're going to take that deal because at the end of the day, I believe this works two ways. You can dream to write Batman, or you can dream to write your own stories, but in between, let me get a little Batman in there. And so, he wants to tell his own stories, and he's getting a chance to tell his own stories, and he has the platform and the audience, from Batman, from Something That's Killing the Children. And so all his new stuff, he's able to really, hone in on that audience that has joined him, including myself, because I'm a paid subscriber, to get his original content direct to you, first and nowhere else for X amount of years.
So is it digital? So it's a digital subscription of stuff?
Yes.
Or?
No, it depends on your tier. For me, it is right now. But I'm all, because personally, I go back and forth. Like there's some things I collect on my iPad, and there's some things I collect in physical form. And then when I can't necessarily find something and I want to read it immediately, and I have X amount in the physical, I don't mind jumping to read in the digital form because I just want to read it and have it in some form. So for me, here, my overall thing for me is this. I think what Substack represents and what Image Comics actually represented, from way back when, what Milestone represented, these independent companies, and we flash forward to now 2021, and Substack has entered the picture with the bandwidth with the money, which matters, is that comic creation and stories are moving away, or balancing out at least, from just being about the company and the publisher. It's now being put into the hands of the creators. And Marvel loved the stories, DC loved the stories. In the last couple of years, in the last few months, they've gotten backlash over how the creators and writers and artists of these books that the movies are based off of are not happy at the fact that they're making millions and billions,
right,
and they're getting thousands or hundreds. And so you factor all that in, and you have this, this upheaval of like, hey, let's go ahead and make this about the creators. Very much like the NBA, it's a players' league, and the comic book industry is becoming a creators' league.
But that's what Image was about, though. When it first, like you just said, that's what Image was about, right?
Yeah,
that's why they left honestly, Marvel.
Yeah, and it still is. It still is. The only one that is more in-house, I would say, would be Skybound, but Skybound is very open to like creator rights. Like every creator that's on Skybound, although Skybound owns the rights of those books, like Excellence is owned by Skybound, but it's created by Brandon Thomas and Kerry Randolph. So there's a sharing that's happening. There's a partnership that's happening there. And so I think in order for, it to go forward with those companies who wants to own IP, there's going to have to be a partnership that's going to have to happen. If not, then you're going to lose out, because it's a creators league, just like in the NBA, it's a players league now.
Well, this is you guys' ballywick, and I understand that. But when it comes to the big two specifically, I would think that would be more pertinent for new creations or new characters when you look at their rosters, with Captain America, Batman, Superman, or whatever being around for 70-something years, the companies aren't going to let those go. But your point about the creators, that would be more pertinent for new stuff that they may create. So whenever they have
not necessarily. So how this came to a head recently was in the Falcon and Winter Soldier television series. The writer for Ed Brubaker, thank you. I was trying to remember his name. Ed Brubaker didn't get anything for his creation of that whole Winter Soldier storyline, because he, in essence, reinvented Bucky Barnes. And he invented the Bucky Barnes is not an original character by him, but the Winter Soldier is. The concept of making Bucky Barnes into the Winter Soldier, and some of the things that they literally put in the movie that came from that comic series, Ed Brubaker created. So you as a creator may borrow a character from one of the big two, but you may come up with completely original concepts with that character or a storyline, and you get no residual income from that in the future when it is optioned for film or television. And that's kind of the problem. Because, you take a 70-year-old character and you reinvent it for the 21st century, and so it makes that character completely unrecognizable from its original form. You deserve some credit for that.
Right.
And even if it's not in your
millions.
Yeah.
Even if it's not what, Brian?
Even if it's not in your original contract, and I think they have to begin to like restructure the contracts. But
right.
Even if it's not originally in your contract, I think, good business is sometimes not about, hey, well, this is the contract say. Good business is honoring the ethical aspect of what business is too, business ethics. And at the end of the day, if you're making 2.5 billion, yeah, right, it is. If you are making 2.5 billion off of something that came from a $3.99 book that you paid a writer $100 per page to write, and they got maybe 12,000 off that book, and you made money off the book, and they're making, I mean, ethically speaking, why not?
Morally, why would you not? You know, that goes to the whole Dave Chappelle thing when he had his contract with, I almost said Cartoon Network, with Comedy Central, and he created, you know, the Dave Chappelle show. Then it started streaming. The company had their contract, which was ironclad. They didn't have to pay him legally another dime. But because he started mentioning this, the company did the quote unquote right thing and came back to him, renegotiated his contract. So now he gets residuals off of the streaming and other platforms and stuff like that. So what you're saying and suggesting is that these contracts should be renegotiated by the companies for the benefit of the creators.
Well, and especially in Dave Chappelle's situation, he has something that the comic book creators don't have. For instance, when he put the word out that, hey, I'm not getting paid anything, you know, well, guess what? All of his fan base stopped supporting HBO and the ones who were streaming. They're like, what the hell? This ain't right. So when you have the individuals who are paying the money also stand up, then it's easier. The problem with comic book creators is
you don't have that platform.
Exactly. And the people are not gonna not go to the movies or not watch the movie. They're going to watch it. So that's where it is tough for the creators. And it's almost like what Brian is saying. And it goes back to the conversation that we were talking about before we start recording. You know, both of y'all are lawyers. And it's the problem, especially in our culture, and what I'll say with indie comic book creators is that, you know, we don't think on the same level that they are thinking at on the forefront. So when the contracts come, they've had their board of done lawyers already factor that contract to benefit them. And then here we are just happy to get a contract.
Yeah. Do creators, when they're going to the big two or big three, throw an image in there, do they have agents who speak on their behalf, or do they just go in as creators and maybe have their own individual lawyers look over the contracts? How does that work in the industry?
All the above. In the sense that if you have an agent, then you can have an agent to look at it. If you have a lawyer, you can have someone look at it. If you don't have anything, then you kind of have to go about it on your own.
But what is the standard for, you know, if you are a comic book writer, you know, do you have an agent to go and negotiate on your behalf with the companies, or do you as an individual just go in and say, hey, I'm a writer, I want to write for you guys? How does that work? I
think on an average, it's just the writer. I would say that, you know, with the plethora of comic book writers and creators and artists, I don't think the majority of them have, or even the median of them have a mouthpiece or advocate. I think it's them. And I think the interesting thing is that you have to look for, and you have to kind of work your way to get noticed, and you have a portfolio in order to begin sending it out to get an agent. Of course, you can hire a lawyer. Right. Of course, that's them money out of your pocket, depending on who you want to get. So there's, you know, at the end of the day, do you need some type of consultant, some type of person to reach out to? I think you do. And I personally have, and I need to, you know, get back in touch with him. We haven't spoken in several weeks. I've just been so busy, but I have consulted with Gamal Hennessy, who is a comic book consultant. He has like lawyer ties, and he focuses on the entertainment, within the comic book industry. And I've been fortunate enough to speak with him and talk to him about several things. And he has a book even now that really hones in on the business of comic book creation and IPs and et cetera, which is well worth, anyone's read, if they're going to be in this business.
Right. And here's something that I'll say that I'm not understanding, or this could be something that, who knows, from this conversation that we're having, some light bulbs might go off in some people's heads. But think about this. Think about athletes. You got people who are scouting them, who are constantly looking, and agents are seeking them out before they get to the big level. They're like, yo, hey, let me be your agent. Think of how many books, especially comic books now, are going to television or streaming or the movies. Why isn't agents seeking out these, indie comic creators exactly on the front end? Because that's really, that's where you're going to make your money, because you're going to give them the nuggets that they need on the front end, to benefit you on the back end when they do get these contracts and stuff. Because now they have an agent speaking on their behalf that's looking out for their best interests. I mean, think about how much these sport agents make. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying the money is crazy.
Is there a union for you guys, for creators, for writers and artists?
Not specifically for comic book creators yet. If you get to a certain echelon level, whatever you want to call it, as a writer or as an artist, you can go into the Writers Guild or the Artists Guild, right? But not specifically for comic book creation. There has been talk of one. It has not formed yet, but the thing about it is that exactly what Patrick is saying. It's a very slow kind of movement, but there are more literary agents who are becoming, more keen on comics and graphic novels, and they're, on LinkedIn. I see it on LinkedIn where they are specifically looking for graphic novel authors and artists and stuff to submit. So it's slowly beginning to happen, and I think that the boom in streaming, and Marvel and DC, Marvel especially has helped this to where, you see the billions they're making. Now original content is beginning to make more money, millions, and venturing into, that higher dollar amount. When money talks, bullshit walks. And what's happening is that they're seeing that, this visual medium right here can translate very well over here. And that's why you have different comic book publishers who are getting first look deals with certain streaming companies, and partnering with certain streaming companies and production companies, because they want first access and to say, hey, let me option this and see if we can make this work and, turn it into our own thing. Shout out to Robert Kirkman, who really, he kind of parlayed, how this can work for the independent comic book creator. And now a lot of people are doing it. James Tynion, something's coming, children's coming to Netflix very soon. And, the Empire of the Tiny Onion is a real thing. And it's
hold on, say that again.
The Empire of the Tiny Onion is what he calls his Substack newsletter. Okay. And it's basically a housing of all his creator-owned stuff. Okay.
I think Department of the Truth got option too, right?
Yeah. So, that's where it's at now. But the biggest thing, though, is that while the option money, licensing money, the development money, as it goes through whatever seasons, it's huge and it's great. But just think about all the publishing that those creators control. They control their publishing. That publishing is going to be bringing in residuals for years, for when their kids are there. That's going to be there. And what the streaming and the TV and the movie does, it continuously pushes in the publishing, and that's important. It pushes the publishing.
What were you about to say, Paul?
I remember watching the Disney Plus show Marvel 616, and they had one episode in which they talked about the Stormbreakers, the two particular artists, Javier Goran who is the artist on Miles Morales' Spider-Man presently, and Natasha Bustos, who was the co-creator of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur comics. She was the artist on that. Both of them from Spain. Marvel recruited them from Spain. And I remember them hearing their stories about how they got into the business and how they were literally the struggling artists, starving artists. Javier Garron was on his last dollar or whatever, and very desperate to try to get to Marvel. And Marvel finally extended him an offer. Natasha Bustos, same thing, struggling artist. Marvel finally extended him the offer. And they showed so much excitement over getting those offers. The first thing me as a lawyer, I'm thinking is, where's your lawyer before you sign the contract? Because, in retrospect, Moon Girl is about to become a cartoon series. Miles Morales is literally Marvel's hottest superhero. And you're helping to define that. He didn't create the character, but he's helping to define the character. I very much doubt their contracts included residuals for whatever storylines or characters or IP that they create during their runs, which are significant. I just literally picked up a bunch of Natasha Bustos work on Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Nice. These books are hard to come by. You can get them, but you're probably paying $20 a book for these. And she created that. Right. She went from starving artist to creating a really hot book. That's gonna be a Disney Plus series now, which Disney Plus has been incredibly successful. So when you talk about Marc was asking how many of these people actually get representation, whether it be an agent or a lawyer. I can't imagine. I think what you're saying was probably accurate, Brian, which is a lot of people just, when you're a struggling artist and you get, hey, Marvel wants you to work with them, and you got to make your rent. Your options are kind of limited, and you're not really thinking about the long term of what you should be getting out of that contract. So right. I think Substack will be a good thing for a lot of artists. Just the independent route in general. I mean, look at Marcus Williams as an artist. The guy has not gotten a contract from the big two ever, but he's very successful. He's highly sought after.
And that's where we're at now, is that Marvel knows that Marvel will always be Marvel, and that they have their hands, their feet, every appendage you can think of in different aspects of the entertainment business. So they're always going to bring in the money and have an audience and readers. Now. Well, yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, they're always going to find a group of writers and creators who they can bring. I mean, at the end of the day, and here's the thing, is that freelancing has a shelf life. There may be 2 or 3 people that you can name, from the last 10 years that's still with the same company, or the last 20 years that's still with the same company. So freelancing has a shelf life. But where the comic book industry is going now is that, it's in the hands of the creators, and the creators are really owning their own destiny. Again, I made the comparison to the NBA. It's the same way. The 80s and early 90s was very heavy. Like Jerry Krause broke up the Bulls. Like that would never happen now. If anything, Michael would break up the Bulls. Right. Like Jerry, like the manager would never break. Like that's never going to happen again. And it's kind of the same way now. And I think it's good for where the content is coming from, because while you have the company that's pushing it and putting it out there and has the badge, has the name, it really is the skill, the craftsmanship, the genius, the brilliance, the hard work of the writer and the artist. Sometimes the artist is the writer, and that team to put the creations out there. And X amount of dollars are made on the publishing, but X amount of dollars are made on the adaptations as well.
Yeah, James Tinian's a perfect example
of the ones who actually drive everything.
Sorry, say that again.
I said the companies are basically the marketers. The creators are the one who actually drive everything when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't push anything. I mean, you can't push product with no product. So
right,
you have to have product first.
Basically,
James Tinian is the perfect example of all of this, because you got a guy right now who has created more characters in the Batman universe, and deep for the DC line. Batman is DC's foremost character. I think if you look at what they're publishing, half of DC's comic books are Gotham-related comic books. Half of them, right?
Hunter.
And James Tinian is the main writer on the DC line, and he has created all of these recent characters, a lot of characters, and these major storylines in this short run for DC. So he's their hottest guy right now. And he's creating he's not going to get any residuals off of these characters. He created Ghostmaker. He created Miracle Molly. He created the Gardener.
Clown Hunter. Punchline.
Now, the list goes on. Is he going to get money off the lunch boxes off of that?
Now, that is probably in an NDA, but I am betting that with those characters, he's going to get a little something somewhere. I'm pretty sure, because they gave him that Vertigo deal with his original story, The Nice House on the Lake. So I think that he's going to get a little something, but when you compare it to what he's going to get with Substack and everything else, it probably is incomparable.
Right. Like, that's a perfect example. Now compare what he's going to make on that little something he gets on those characters in DC with what he's going to get with the stuff he's going to get from Substack.
He has complete control. And I was reading one of his newsletters, and this is the brilliance of it. I read his newsletters, right? And so I'm reading his newsletter, and I'm taking it all in. And and he's talking about how he's in complete control of this, where there's not an overseer of how the story has to go. He's overseeing it. And to have autonomy in that sense, to where you're overseeing, even to where you select your own editor, and because if you're going to be prolific and you're going to be about craftsmanship, you have to have an editor. But he's selecting his editor and bringing them part of his team. It's still autonomy.
So he's the executive producer, the director, and the actor.
Yeah, him, and he's splitting it with his artists, and so he's getting to be the creator, the writer, and Marvel at the same time, and DC at the same time. And so is his, and so is his artist. His artists are going to join in on the split, and artists are going to end up making more money and have ownership than he would with another franchise company. So it really is about autonomy. And at the end of the day, again, it's going back to that, where the creator, we're in a creator's age, and the creators are finding different avenues. Kickstarter is one of those avenues. Kickstarter, Indiegogo, more so Kickstarter now, because Indiegogo unfortunately has been linked with CG and all that stuff. But Kickstarter, is like a forerunner for Substack and Comixology and stuff like that, where creators are attempting to control their destiny, because there's something there. There's something that's very important there. It's entrepreneurship.
Right.
That's all it is.
The analogy that I was about to use a second ago is that the big two or big three, if you want to throw Image in there, well, big two, Marvel and DC, is that they're like an automobile company who have all the parts for the vehicles. They own Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, Batman, etc. They own that, but they can't do anything without workers to come in there and put the car together. So the creators are the mechanics in the analogy. And so the creators have a lot of power, but there's really not a lot that they can do unless they decide collectively, hey, this is what we need from you, Marvel and DC, for us to continue to come into your shop and put your cars together for you. So, that's my union speech. Black Cotton, number 5. Let's get into it.
All right,
Okay.
Black Cotton number 5. Hey,
I
yo,
had to wait a long time for this
that was
book.
a great conversation, by the way, guys. Great conversation.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, that's not, as laymen, this is not something that a lot of us get into, is the business side. We don't get to see or hear about how the sausage is made. So having you two here allows us to delve into that, which is cool. But to get down to the nitty gritty, to get down to the specifics of Black Cotton number 5. Now,
whoa!
I don't have that one. Yeah, yeah.
That's
the one I just ordered.
Y'all see my Twitter? I might give away a couple. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
As long as you have my address on the giveaway, then yes.
We can talk
offline on that variant. Who is the artist on that variant cover?
That's Marcelo Santana.
Okay.
Yeah. He be killing it.
Yeah, I just ordered that.
Number 6.
How many different variants for number 5 do you guys have?
Just I think that's it.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 covers, this one and the one you just held up?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Xavier gets on my nerves and I don't like him.
You said what?
Xavier gets on my nerves and I don't like him. Like at all as a character. He is a spoiled little bastard who thinks that he knows more than he does in his 15, 16 years of life.
Let me ask you a personal favor in Black Cotton.
I'm done.
What I love.
Hold on, let me finish.
What I loved about this issue the most was the Keshinobi twins and their encounter with Uncle Taz. The Keshinobi twins are deadly. They're interesting. They're fascinating and mysterious. I like the fact that Elijah is actually perplexed, vexed, and somewhat scared of them. I think it would be a great story point for them to kill Xavier. Can we kill Xavier? Because he is a whiny little bitch.
Well, look, I ain't gonna say the boy needs to die. But I mean, he needs to have some comeuppance. I ain't gonna say he needs to die.
Goodness.
All right, fine.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe this.
Marc's going all bleeding heart on me. All right, let's not kill him. Perhaps we could, maim him, give him a scar.
I don't want there to be any physical harm to this boy. He just needs to have a change in attitude.
Like. Oh wow.
They want us to Harry Potter him.
Wow. Give him a little scar that he remembers. Hey, the world isn't all, roses and what have you. There's realities you have to face. Money talks, BS walks. It's great to be able to protest up and down the streets as you're wearing your $200 sneakers.
He really doesn't understand the privilege that he has. I don't think, he annoys the hell out of me.
He annoys the hell.
What he was saying, the stuff that he was saying to his brother as a younger brother, as a teenager. I mean, on the one hand, he's sitting up here saying that his brother doesn't know what he's doing, or who doesn't know who he is. But on the other hand, Xavier is benefiting from this and still criticizing it. It's like
it reminds me very much of a comment that me and the other Black comic lords talk about on the pages all the time. You always have that one dude who wants to make comments about, I don't like this and I don't think we should support this comic because it's not Black enough, and I don't believe this book is good because it's not woke enough. I'm like, all right, well, great. It's easy to comment. It's easy to criticize. It's easy to tear stuff down. But let me ask you a question. What do you recommend? What are you reading? What do you think is woke enough for you to read on a monthly basis? There's always crickets when I ask that question. There's always crickets. Or they'll just say, some random, unknown, poorly drawn, but it's keeping it real, type comic.
Yeah, Xavier.
That's Xavier. That's Xavier.
I don't know if we've ever
about
had
everything, but doesn't have because remember, there's a scene where his brother Zion says, well, what would you have me do, Mr. Wokeness? What would you have me do? He never answered that question.
Is Xavier based on anybody in real life?
I think he's based on that one family member that you always have that is like that. And normally, guess what? It's normally in that teenage range. I got one in my family. She gets on my damn nerves, you know? And I'm like, and you know what I always say? I always say, hey, some people have to learn the hard way.
Right.
And I let it go because you don't want to hear it from me. So, hey.
And at 15, 16 years old, you know everything in the world, haven't experienced anything. And that's the way Xavier seems to me. I'm not a fan of that kid, like, at all. I do not like him.
I just one encounter with the Kashinomi twins, please.
I totally respect that. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Maybe down the line, Brian, we can have one on just slap him. You know,
yeah, he needs to be humble,
and then have a little word bubble that said, "That's from Paul." Paul says hi.
He needs to be humbled. He definitely needs to be humbled. I will say that he needs to be humbled, and his brother needs to come to his rescue.
That's it.
So he can see his brother in a different light.
Have the Kashinomi twins put the sword to his neck. Have him cry like a little girl, and then have the girl slap him in the face and say, "Be humble and sit down."
and then his brother steps over.
Be humble. Be humble.
Sit down.
I totally respect it, man. No, I honestly think that the way you guys feel about him is really cool. I mean, it makes me laugh that there's such a strong reaction.
Yeah.
To him.
After he got all the love, you know.
He ain't got no love from me. I don't like that kid.
You guys have him like nail on the head right there. Like,
okay,
I'll tell you some other things I liked. Again, you guys throwing in the alternate universe terms. I picked up on it. I look for it. For me, that's the central part of what Black Cotton's all about. I'm at the point where, the storyline with the girl and Nightingale and shot. I get that, but I'm curious about the larger world. That's what really fascinates me. You guys have them say things like, thank the gods.
Right. That's what I was getting ready to ask. What type of religion do they have? That's the question I was going to ask.
Right. I'm looking forward to finding out what's the religion that they practice. Is it?
Yeah. What is their religion? Hold on. Address that. What is their religion?
So,
and let the answer please be the Orishas. Go ahead.
So there's not one specific religion. It's a conglomerate and understanding of tradition, folklore, understanding of religion passed down. It's so
this isn't a monotheistic Christian.
No,
state.
It's not. No, okay. No. Okay. So it's very much it's very much in African tradition where there's a conglomerate. There's
right.
And it's an understanding of multiple deities and ancestors at work, and they just acknowledge them all.
Good.
I love the fact that you had a reference to the first African ruler of the Mali Empire, Sundiata Keita.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Keita, Mali, Virginia.
Yeah.
Y'all just doing the damn thing, man. Patrick, I know that was you, man. I know that was you.
That's us. I mean, that's what we do.
Oh man,
there was a word in here that Kia called her friends or referred to somebody. Where's that word? Oh my God, she used something. It wasn't Negroes, but it was something like you would say, like, "What are you Negroes doing?" or something like that. Where was it? I'm looking for it now, but y'all go ahead. I'll tell you.
While he's looking for that, another thing.
Milagros. That's it. Milagros. What is?
Oh no, that is actually her friend's name.
Oh hell. Okay. All right. I thought you were saying something like Negroes or something.
No.
Okay, so that's her name. Okay, all right.
That's her name. Yeah.
Okay. So Mrs. Cotton has a really cool panel that really I think was a definer for her character. Uncle Taz sliced up. Your brother's sliced up. The twins are after him, Mrs. Cotton. Oh no, my brother. But you know, the business, these guys are attacking our businesses at the end of the day. Anyway, now's not the time for weakness. I'm like, your brother just got sliced up. Now's not the time for weakness. She said that so ice cold, man. I literally said as I read that, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
He was like, he's strong. He'll be all right.
He'll be all right. That's exactly. He'll be all right.
We rewrote that, didn't we, Brian? Because we had it one way, but then I think me and Brian, we talked, and then Brian, he was like, you know what? She needs to come hard. You know, this is a moment where we can really define Jalissa and really show that she's not weak. Going straight to what you were saying, Paul, that she's not a weak, that she is a very intelligent and strong. You know, it's like she catches herself. It's a moment where she wants to, you know, show emotion, but then within an instant, she draws it back.
She about her business.
And here's what's funny. You know, whenever I read comic books, this is why I'm against race swapping, gender swapping, things of that nature when it comes to bringing the page to live action. I'm adamantly against that in most cases. But in one of our previous conversations, you know, when we did a fan cast, Paul mentioned as a fan cast for Taz, Laz Alonso.
Yeah.
So as I'm reading those first 3 pages or so, in my mind's eye, I'm seeing Laz Alonso fighting these people and getting all sliced up or whatever. So that was a brilliant fan cast on Paul's part for Laz for this role, even though it kind of typecast him because he's played, you know, a cop before in several different projects. But I could definitely, if you guys ever bring this to live action or whatever, Laz Alonso should be towards the top of your list for that character. Because again, when I'm reading it, that's exactly who I saw. I didn't really see the other fan cast that I had for this, you know, because I think I said Angela Bassett for the wife, right, or whoever it was that we went down the list and said. But for that one, that Laz Alonso is perfect for that role. Absolutely perfect.
Hell, Morgan Freeman could do Elijah.
Way too old. He's 80-something years old. He ain't going, well.
Is he really?
Yes.
Oh, well, speaking of casting, so there's another
someone died.
There's another comic book called Black Cotton Star. You guys?
Oh yeah. Yep.
And that's being done by Reginald Hudlin. It's a World War II Black Regiment story. I think there's kind of a ghost story, a horror story element to it, and that just recently got optioned. And I know you guys were kind of looking at possibly getting optioned yourself, or you were optioned. I don't remember what specifically you said on it, but you were working on it.
We have not been optioned. We have not been
optioned. All right, but it's something that you thought about.
I mean, we're open to it.
We're speaking it into existence, though.
So, I mean, I was wondering if that had crossed your minds, like, you know, once that movie is released, the term Black Cotton may become associated with that other property. If that's something that, like, retooling the name or the universe or something, if that becomes a possible, if someone comes to you tomorrow and says, yeah, I'm willing to option Black Cotton as a book, but we've got this Reginald Hudlin thing, it's also called Black Cotton, it's coming out, you know, in 6 months, that's going to be, because they're both also have Black characters in it. Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking as a Hollywood person, like a Hollywood people, right. You know how Hollywood people are. Yeah,
I think Black Cotton has to stay Black Cotton. I mean, one, you know, it's trademarked as Black Cotton.
Right.
So, you know, what it's about, you know, what Black Cotton is, I mean, the best way to say it is Black Cotton. My thing is that it would most likely just be, you know, it kind of will play off of each other. I actually came across that book simply by when I Googled Black Cotton. You know,
right.
Black Cotton comes up, but so does Black Cotton Star.
Right.
So
but here's what I love, when at the beginning, when I Googled Black Cotton Star, was like, hey, it was prevalent. It was the one that would pop up all the time, and I have to search for Black Kind, comic. But now, shoot, you put in Black Kind and we pop up.
Nice.
Boom, boom, boom. You absolutely pop up.
Yeah. But hey, here's what I say: we don't change it simply because of this. Going back to what Brian just said, it plays off each other. Right. It's almost like it's almost like bad publicity. How they say going to not really bad publicity, but we'll say bad comments on Facebook. We don't care,
right?
Because guess what? As long as you're talking about Black Kind, guess what? That's what matters.
No bad press, right? So let me ask you this: since we were talking about fan casting a second ago, the twins. Had you guys given any thought to who would play the twins?
Ooh,
we have not
really.
We have
not find some Blasian actors.
Yeah. The twins.
So wait, they're biracial?
Yes, they are biracial. Yes,
they're Black and Japanese, right?
Yep.
And we make that clear in issue 6. There's one line
that
that
issue 6 for clear. Various reasons. Huh? Nothing.
I'm sorry. What you say?
I said I was looking forward to issue 6 for various reasons, but
yeah. We are too.
Yeah.
So
I really love the last panel on issue 5.
Hold on a second. So they're biracial. You haven't given any. So do you guys even think about that type of stuff on a regular basis or no? Because that's something I do on a regular basis whenever I read comic books.
No, like when we were writing Jaleesa, we thought of course, my
Regina
girl,
King.
And but as far as like fan casting, like I personally haven't. No.
For you guys, it's not fan casting because this is your property.
Right.
So you haven't given any thought. Okay.
Well, that's because we're too focused on the story. And you got to understand the process that me and Brian go through. We're having several conversations on which leads to the stripping away of our implicit biases from the story. So we sort of don't get into the fan casting because we have to see the characters as they are for the story.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Let's not mess up your flow, man. We don't want to mess up your flow.
No, you're good.
Real quick though, something that I just thought about for Elijah, Wendell Pierce.
I think we had talked about him.
Because he's not that old. Wendell Pierce is about 53, 54. So he's young enough to have kids of that age, in that age range. Samuel Jackson obviously could, but he's way old.
He's way up.
He's in
old boy who just died. Williams.
Michael K. Williams. Yeah.
He would have been great.
He would have been great.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna just say this. We don't have to touch on him, but like he passed away from drugs. A comedian, passed away from
comedians
drugs
over the weekend. Fentanyl. Yep.
4 comedians over the weekend passed away.
Yeah, man.
Yes, they were at a party and they were all doing drugs, and the drugs had fentanyl in it or something.
Yeah,
they were doing cocaine. So yes.
Yeah, and it's so sad because why are we getting taken out like that? With all the things that we're dealing with, and when you get to a certain point, it's like, come on, man, we should. I hate to see us go out like that.
Right.
But
Houston,
it takes, like, what I've been thinking about a lot lately is that, like, especially for a creative mind, and then you kind of go with like the environment of the pandemic, and depending on your family, depending on like what you're doing, like with your life, like you really do need like a way to constantly be engaged with another person or a group of people. I mean, even to the point of having a therapist to kind of walk through some things with, having another person that you can speak with and talk to. And if you don't have that, what ends up happening is that, you're inside your own head. And you get inside your own head too long, what ends up happening is you need an outlet to escape your head. And the easiest thing to do is, find liquor, find drugs, find
comic books.
Or reading can never be bad. Reading can never be bad. But what we find is that a lot of people are attempting to find that escape. They're trying to find a way to deal with things that people probably don't even know that, externally that they're dealing with. And I think that's what it comes down to. And it's more than just, I guess it's kind of like, just mental health awareness.
Yeah.
And, the ways that if we're not really looking at it and dealing with it, then we're going to find our own alternative ways to deal with it that might not be healthy or beneficial. So it's one of the things that, we are living in an interesting time, a very interesting time.
Because you guys are creators of a Black-centric comic book, based on that comment, have you guys thought, or will you think in the future about adding a therapist or one of the, like, for example, Zion, he should be going to a counselor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To deal with what he's dealing with. But we haven't seen that. Is that something, 6 kind of wraps up the storyline, right?
Mm-hmm. But volume 2, I believe we've already, not to divulge, a lot that's going on in volume 2, but you will see that introduced in volume 2.
I think Marc is onto something. I think that would make an interesting standalone issue along these lines. In reality, when an officer is involved in a shooting, a psychological evaluation is standard operating procedure. So it would be interesting to have an entire issue that's just him talking to a therapist. Basically a 2-panel issue. You got the therapist asking questions, or you know what? It doesn't have to be a 2-panel issue. The issue could focus specifically on him, and then there's just questions in a word bubble being asked by the therapist. You don't even see the therapist. And in the breakdown of how his feelings are about the shooting, the therapist asks him about, what's it like being a cotton? Why is being a cotton part of your reaction to this event? How does that play into you being a cop and having your reaction, your feelings about what you did to Nightingale?
Will Scout Comics have annuals? Because that, like, piggybacking what Paul said, that would be a good annual to just deal with that. Because, as you guys know, in comic books, annuals are stories that are canon, but are apart from the ongoing series. So that's something.
Or special.
Right. So that would be, that quote unquote annual, dealing with that would be kind of interesting, I think.
I like that
whole process.
Like Bitterroot had that Red Hot Summer special.
Yeah.
You guys could have a special, a separate alone issue.
We do have a couple of one-shots in mind that part of canon, but breaks from the main storyline.
But in reference to this issue that we're discussing, in reference to mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I like that.
I definitely like it. I think that when you guys read issue 6 and see where this story kind of closes, and then see where issue 7 opens, I think that there will be a like an understanding, but there also will be a wanting of connectivity. You'll be able to see. I think you kind of have to see where Zion's story ends with this in order to understand what happens next.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Now you said issue 7. What does issue 7 drop?
But that's something that we can we'll think about though, because I think that's like one of those processes that the public don't see. It happens in a bubble,
behind the scenes.
The public, we see, the incident, what the news show us, and then we get the results, either the trial and the results. But that piece in between, that's very important. Now, I think it can do a couple of things. It can enlighten people to the process that's going on. It can probably highlight some of the things that need to be changed in the process. It can also highlight, like what you were talking about, some implicit biases that Zion might have that he didn't discover until after this incident happened, and it is discovered through therapy. There's some, we can definitely pull the string on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a storyline, and by the way, I mean, you could focus the issue just on Zion, but you can obviously he could do flashbacks as he's talking about, well, you know, what was your childhood like? The therapist says, and Zion's like, I had a normal childhood for any kid who's rich and beyond all compare. And then he does a flashback to some scene he has with his father, and there was some negative aspects of a scene. But there was an X Factor issue that was written by Peter David back in the day, that was drawn by Joe Quesada, in which X Factor as a superhero team went to therapy, and they got interviewed, and they interviewed the entire team, but the focus was actually on Quicksilver, which is a character I could really care less about. But the therapy sessions with Quicksilver helped to redefine the character, because you learn things about Quicksilver, who had been at that point, because this is the 90s, in the Marvel universe for 40 years, but you never understood why he acted the way he did. Like, people say, well, Quicksilver's kind of an arrogant prick, but you never understood why he's an arrogant prick. And he explained, imagine if the whole world around you moves slowly, and you as a person think 10,000 times faster than everybody else. So you say a few words, I already know what you're going to say, and I actually have to wait what feels to me like an hour for you to finish your sentence, and I already know what the answer is going to be. So yes, I have an attitude because I have to sit there through incredible boredom as you people go about your lives doing things at such an incredibly slow rate, and I have to sit there and wait for you to catch up. And when you thought about it like that, you're like, well, I never thought about it like that. That's why he acts like such an asshole all the time, because quite frankly, he's kind of bored. Everything's moving so slow for him.
There was no, I was just gonna say, since we're talking about mental health, there was a DC book recently. It was, I can't remember the name of it. I was just looking for it right now, but basically the hero.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, yeah. What is that book? What was it called? I thought it was Heroes something. Heroes in Crisis.
Yes, it was by Tom King, and it was Crisis something, and he spent like 12 issues, I think, where the heroes all were going through like mental health.
Yes, right.
Therapy. Yeah.
Right. Like the first 4 pages, or the first 2 or 3 pages were them talking to a mechanical, therapist or whatever, and then the rest of the book was about the action or whatever. So, going back to the whole mental health thing, and we all know that mental health is a stigma in the Black community. That might very well be a prime way to try to address that. Just throwing stuff out there.
No, I'm on board with it, and we have some plans for how, like, because it definitely is a thing, and I, from like me looking at it and me, I feel like everyone, even if they are not specifically dealing with something, they're dealing with something. And I really take that to heart. And, we've discussed ways of, as the story move forward, of how to engage that. I find it very interesting that, like, your guys' take of Zion so far in the story, and, as we come towards the end, and what he's done and what happens beyond that and his mental health, is very interesting because, I mean, the real life comparison is, do we really put that much care towards, George Zimmerman? Do we really care about his mental health?
No.
I don't. No, I don't. But, through this story, there's this sympathy, and it's, because we've gotten to see, you know, behind the scenes of Zion, and, you know, and there's, you know, I think the way that he is, his character, you know, there's like, he's not 100% bad guy. You know, there's something else going on there. So we want to know more about him. But his counterpart,
He got scared.
Right. And so, and so, you know, I think that exercise right there is really, you know, that's part of this human condition, human learning experience that I feel like Black Cotton really, really delves into and offers, is that, you know, you're forming your own opinions, your own conclusions, your own perceptions about this character who has done something to another person that's irreversible. But the most of the conversation, granted, the story focuses on Zion more, but most of the conversation is on Zion, not Elizabeth Nightingale.
We saw that in issue 4, I think, when she was with that dude, right? That was 4.
Yeah.
Right.
The dude, and about her going to school and stuff like that. So yeah. Yo, that would be a good issue. Half of it be about Zion dealing with his stuff, going to therapy. The other half about her going to therapy and dealing with everything.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, that's another.
That's a good idea. I agree.
Yeah. And see how the therapy is different, you know.
For each one
but what
of them,
I was gonna say, here's another thing that drives I think people's compassion toward Zion. And it was well, no. What I would say, it goes beyond the color of his color. I think it's because it's something that me and Brian spoke about in the creation. Sometimes you have to put out there what you want to see in order to start the change to happen. And what do we not see when incidents between cops and civilians? A lot of times we don't see the cops actually feeling or looking remorseful. We don't see them reaching out, taking that first step to, you know, reach out. They normally are shielded. It seems like, you know, it's in a protective state. You know, they're shielded by the union. Exactly, the blue wall. So what did we do with Zion that is, you know, that is sparking the compassion when he went to the hospital?
Right.
So we've showed people a different side, and by him going to the hospital, it makes people see a deeper side of Zion, and that is, you know, I believe why we can say, hey, you know what, we want him to go to therapy. You know, with Elizabeth, what you went through and getting shot, you need therapy. And I believe, you know, y'all are spot on. That is something that's also needed within our culture that we do not, you know, take advantage of, you know, until it's too late.
And from an economic standpoint, what would be interesting is Zion having access with all his wealth to a top-notch therapist versus contrasting that with Elizabeth going to some little community therapist and everybody, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she wouldn't go though. I mean, with, you know, she's middle class, you know, she wouldn't go very much like most Black people, middle class, wouldn't go.
She wouldn't want to go.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't want to go, and even with the money, wouldn't use the money to go.
And that's why she'd be forced to go, because she has a lawsuit that's going on.
Right.
And the lawyer may say, well, look, as part of our lawsuit, we want to show the mental anguish that you are going through. So we need to have you evaluated by a psychologist so that guy can testify.
It kind of depends on your lawyer though, right? I mean, what kind of lawyer does she have?
Oh,
anyone that does.
Well, it's a civil suit. So anybody who wants to get money from this
billionaire,
she's going to find a good one.
First thing the lawyer is going to do as part of your damages is try to get mental anguish as a result. So you have to have a psychological evaluation to get that expert witness to say on the stand, this lady has suffered severe trauma that will scar her for life as a result of being shot by this officer.
But are they even trying to get to the stand? But are they even trying to get to the stand?
No. But that's part of the packet that you put together when you go to the
so,
other side and ask for money.
Her eval is being, you asked, well, what would motivate her as this middle-class lady to go see a therapist? Well, my lawyer ordered me.
Money.
My lawyer ordered me to go get the eval, but in the course of the eval, some truths are actually released. See
but you know they never gonna make it there, right?
Yeah, of course. We realize, but it would still be the whole.
The Cousins already, cut a check.
Right. Yeah.
Issue 1. How much is this going to cost
to make this go away? Yeah.
Well, when making that argument,
5,
you have to have all your facts and stuff straight up, and having the report from the psychologist saying, well, here's what if you take this to trial, here's a report from our psychologist saying she's scarred for life as a result of this.
Right.
That's why she needs to get the psychological evaluation.
But she doesn't even care. She just wants to be able to write a check and put this behind them. But going back to issue 5, I see you brought my girl back for a couple of panels. Carolina.
Is it Carolina or Carolina? What is it?
So
Carolina.
Listen.
Carolina.
Is she messing with?
Oh my goodness!
Don't answer.
I'm not. Listen. No, I'm not gonna let this go until I get an answer.
No, I don't want to spoil it. Don't answer that question, please. Just ignore him.
There needs to be
no answer for right now.
Will there be some answers in 6 or 7 or whatever about
you would definitely get an answer in 6 and 7 for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But when does 7 drop? Because 7's part of the next story arc, right?
7 is the first issue of the next story arc.
7
there is not 7 does not have an official release date. We are definitely 2022. We're not trying to make it late in 2022. So I would say early 2022.
Okay.
Right, Patrick?
Yeah. Definitely, we're trying to not have it too far from the trade paperback so that people can go, catch up and then get right back into it.
When's the trade paperback supposed to drop? And will it have extras 11th. In it? February 11th?
Yep, January 11th.
January 11th. Is it going to have extras in it?
Like back matter, you mean?
Whatever. Like that? I mean, any extra stuff that's not in the 6 issues.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Do you guys have a character Bible?
Yes. Yeah, and
gotta have one.
And it's still building. There is a character that in volume 2 that we've introduced, and that will factor into Universe willing volumes to come.
So wait, so are you saying you've introduced the character already, or the character will be introduced?
Will be introduced in volume 2 in issue 7. Like his name is dropped, and like we've had conversations like going into like volume 6, I think, or something like that.
Damn.
So like, and that's one of the big things for us, right? Is that, and I think that you guys hit on it with the Keshinomis, is that, with the Keshinomis and the verbiage that, the dialect, the things they say, there's this larger universe, that exists. And so one of the big things for Black Cotton in volume 2 is that while we'll still feel the reverberations from what Zion did and everything happened in Act 1, the story will not remain with just the shooting. And I think that that's the thing with Black Cotton, is that originally, so many people, focused on the shooting and like this reversal of the shooting. And the question was, where does it go from here? And so now that we've gotten to 5 and going to 6, you kind of got the glimpse of like, oh, well, wait a second. And so we're not going to linger into the shooting to make the shooting to be a focal point in volume 2, but the shooting has reverberations in the lives of everyone there, especially Zion. So that can never go away. But the storyline is not the shooting.
The Cottons need
So
better security.
we've talked about the role in your universe where Africa is basically, I guess, not colonized, right? And and I'm big into this whole multiversal rewriting of history type thing. That's a cool thing for me. So when I think about the fact that you have a world where Europeans did not colonize the Americas, Africans did, right? What does that mean for South America and Central America? What does that mean to those regions that had their indigenous peoples? You know, what happened to those indigenous peoples? What happened to the Mayans, the Aztecs? You know, did they form their own empires in your universe? You know, I like the idea that you have, like, the Cottons represent this sort of African empire first family type thing. The Keshinomis might represent this other powerful family in Japan. What's going on in, like, South America, Central America? You know, I'm curious to see, like, is there a power structure, another family there? Is that something that we could see in the future?
No, I would say most definitely, simply, but we have to also understand that evolution continues to happen with them. You know how we have the minds, and we go and see, you know, where they were back in the day. That's where we are right now. But with them, they're not extinct in our world because, you know, evolution happened. So definitely in the future, we're going to pan out and show more. And that's where, you know, all the research that me and Brian, you know, do, because to tap into that side, that's some deeper research that we have to do before we touch on them, so that we can do them justice. That's one thing that we truly, you know, honor when we do things. That's why you see all of these different techniques that we throw in, because we want to truly show honor too in our work. And at the same token, one thing that we love is that our team is international. So a lot of times we can just tap into, you know, like for instance, Marcelo is in Brazil. You know, he's in South America. So we can tap into, you know, the knowledge and the stuff that he is immersed in right there. Marco Perugini, you know, over in Italy. So that's the beauty of having a diverse and international team, which is something that we don't see a lot in, I would say, in the culture that we're in right now. For instance, let me see, what the hell was that show? Okay, The Chair. Have you seen that?
No, on Netflix. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it yet. With Sandra Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I love her. I like her. You know, I've known her from Grey's Anatomy, and you know, I was
Killing
happy.
Eve.
Right. Yep.
Killing Eve. So, Brian, Killing Eve. If you've not seen that yet,
I heard that was good.
Okay.
I heard that was good. Okay.
Go ahead, Pat.
I'm gonna add it to my list.
Yeah. So you have this this minority, we'll say, you know, in a prominent role in The Chair. And the show annoyed the hell out of me. You know, I watched the whole thing because I like her. But one thing that pissed me the hell off, and I was like, you can tell when you don't have a diverse, you know, writing staff. You know, you can tell, because it's like, okay, you have the minority in there. Why is she protecting these three old white people?
Right.
I'm like, really? Get rid of them and get some younger, you know, diverse people in. But no, this whole show is written with this minority who is in the chair. She is the head person in charge, protecting three old
white power structure,
white people. And then guess what? At the end, guess who takes her place?
One of those
the
three.
Old white person. I was like, Come on now. Really? So this whole time, all she needed to do was do her damn job, but you wrote it like that. And at the end, you put a stamp on it and she loses her job and is replaced by the old white person?
Yo, I'm looking it up on IMDb. Amanda Peet, who has disappeared off the face of the planet, was one of the creators of this series. I had no idea. You guys know who Amanda Peet is?
Mm-hmm.
She's an actress who was in The Whole Nine with Bruce
Whole
Willis.
9 yards.
The Whole 9 yards with Bruce Willis. Yes. That's crazy. I did not know.
What I find fascinating about the possibility of exploring the Central and South American and Black Cotton world is, one of the biggest colonizing areas was Spain and Portugal, right? They colonized much of the Western Hemisphere, particularly in Central and South America. So when we look at these other countries, particularly like Brazil and what have you, Mexico, what have you, the people down there, if we're talking about this world that hasn't been European colonized, they're not going to have Hispanic names anymore. In your world, for all intents and purposes, the Hispanic people, as it's labeled, they may not exist as we may think of them, because they may actually be, in large part, just uncolonized indigenous peoples. So their names aren't going to be Rodriguez and Ramirez and what have you, because Spain didn't colonize them.
So it's interesting you bring this up, because Milagros is she's a friend of Kia's. And she's Hispanic.
Yeah.
And what's interesting also is that I was reading a review of Black Cotton today, and of Black Cotton 5. And while it was a great review, and they rated it high, like they were trying to figure out the Keshinomis, and they were like, you had these swordwood and they called them ninjas. And
they're Asian with swords, of course.
Right. And so it really tickled me, because what the the introduction of the Keshinomis, which actually began in issue 1 when she came from Japan, and then we touched on again.
Can I just say this? I love when Elijah was like, they're using swords. Like, who does that? That's like one of my favorite lines. I'm sorry. I just had to tell you that. I love one of my favorite lines.
Exactly. Who does that, right? But it's so funny, because that line is like, you're in this very grounded story, and all of a sudden you have swords. And so Elijah is saying to himself, like, what in the world is going on? So it's like this dual thing happening. In the story, he's like, what is this? This isn't real life. And in the comic book, it's like, where did this come from? They're using swords. But the Keshinomis, are really the bridge into that larger world of the BCU. And it starts with this biracial, they're Black and Japanese. And you have to think about, what does that mean in this world to be biracial in that extent, to be Black and Japanese. And so as the Keshinomis, continue on, in their family, et cetera, and who they are, you're going to be able to trek, different cultures, within this BCU. And the Keshinomis are like the beginning of that. And that's the thing that trips me out, is that, you see the swords and you're just looking at the swords, in this review. But the bigger thing is like that they are this different culture, immersed culture, mixed culture, biracial culture, that's going to open up another aspect of the BCU. And that's what the Keshinomis are.
Yeah, and gonna breed another question, which I can't wait, for us to reveal that artwork to you. What do Japan look like?
Oh. Oh.
Because Japan was quote unquote conquered or at least invaded back in the 1800s, and then destroyed in the 40s during World War II. You know, does any of that happen in y'all's world? So,
was there a World War II in your world?
Right.
Was there a World War One?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that I've mentioned.
Yes, happens a different way.
Gotcha.
Oh,
one of the things that I mentioned here before was, Black Cotton is an alt universe storyline. And I've mentioned Man in the High Castle on Amazon Prime, which is absolutely phenomenal. But one that's more in line with this is a show called Noughts and Crosses. Have you guys had the opportunity to check that out yet? I finally finished. There's only 6 episodes, but I finally did finish it. Have you guys had the opportunity to check it out?
No, but that was a book
what
first,
platform is it on?
I'm watching it bootleg, so I honestly don't know. It may be BBC. I don't know if it's a South African show. I honestly don't know.
No, it's BBC. I know that much.
Okay, but yes, I think it was a series of books because when I was looking it up on IMDb, I think they said it was some books. So yeah, I haven't read the books, but the series, I really, really like alt storylines, which is why I like Black Cotton so much, because it gives us, the viewers or the readers, different ways to think about situations that we are familiar with. That's one of the reasons why I like the Ultimate line of Marvel comic books, because it showed the characters that we knew and know in a different light. So
right,
yeah, I really like the alt version. So once again, I'm gonna throw that out there, Noughts and Crosses, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I looked it up. I just couldn't find. I'm at the talk to you offline on the bootleg version.
Yeah.
Offline.
Yeah. So I'll let you know.
Hey, you know what? That's what we need. We need that white person in Black Cotton that's always selling the bootlegs.
You need a brother man. You need a white brother man.
Yeah.
A huggy bear type character.
There we go.
God.
Bino man.
Bino man.
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
Nah, his name needs to be like mayonnaise or something like that.
Undercover brother.
He needs to have a catchy nickname like mayonnaise or
tartar sauce.
Tartar sauce. Y'all are crazy.
So other than Black Cotton, obviously, what else are you guys reading? And let me preface it with this, and I've said this here before, but I am now reading more Black-centric books than I ever have in my life, ever. Black Cotton, I think we can consider Noctera Black-centric. Right. Eve.
Philadelphia.
You know what? Thanks to Paul, I finally got issue number 1 of Philadelphia. I just read 1 and 2 today. I like those first 2 issues. I'm missing like only 1 issue of the first 15 or 16 issues. Philadelphia, I'm really liking that.
Yeah, I just bought 13, 14, 15, and 16 this past weekend.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, I had to
book
catch
on the
up.
shelves.
Yeah, I read 1 and 2 today. I'm gonna read the rest of them later on. Excellence. I finally started. Paul got me into that.
That's good. That I love.
Yeah, I'm really liking that. The way that they speak in Excellence is like real.
It's real.
It's
real.
That's
like, yo, nigga, what's up?
Right.
Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness, I love it.
I'm not accustomed to that. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not accustomed to that real life.
They don't talk like that at Morehouse?
I mean, let me say this. I'm not accustomed to that in media, in print media.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. This is real world talk. I'm like,
it's real. It's real.
Yes. I'm reading that. I can't think of what else I'm collecting or reading right now.
What about, are you reading White?
Yes. I have issue 1. Paul mentioned before, I think Black a while ago. That's probably impossible to find now, but yes, I am getting White. My comic book store said they're not really going to be able to get it because of how they're distributed.
Low key. Go to the website. White's done by, is it Black Mask? Who does White?
Yeah.
Go to the Black Mask website. I was so bitter because I overspent money trying to track down Black on the aftermarket, and they had it right there on the website for cover price.
Oh wow. Okay. Gotcha. Oh, speaking of Black Mask, this isn't a Black book, but I'm reading more horror stuff now than I ever have before. There's one called Bunny Mask that I'm really
I love Bunny Mask.
I really like that book.
Okay, all right. I love the covers. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, that's what got me into it. Was the cover art. But then once I started reading the story, even though it's not Black centric, I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. I also read something that Brian is familiar with called Nottingham. I really like Nottingham.
Yeah. I just bought all 6 of those. Matter of fact, it was 8. I got a couple of the variant issues, but I had to, get them all. Since my boy name in there, the cover.
Right.
Hey, Nottingham and Troop. I'm in the process of editing volume 2 right now, like the scripts. So let me tell you, man. We just got the finished inks from Shane Vogt, the artist, for issue 7.
Same artist?
For issue 6. Yes. So like all of issue 6, man, that joint is beautiful, yo. I'm telling you, man. Y'all in a treat for volume 2. Volume 2 is dope.
Oh, that other one. Blood.
Don't forget.
Dark Blood.
Dark Blood.
Yes. Look, I'm liking that.
Look, I have not read it yet. Here's the deal. I went to the store. Issue 1's gone and the issue 2 there. And I'm like, man, should I just buy this issue 2? And I'm like, man, I need the issue 1. And they don't have any issue 1s. So I'm like, you know what?
Remind me. My store probably has it. Just remind me and I'll send you.
Okay.
I'll get it.
All right, bet. If that's the case, then I'm going back tomorrow. I'm gonna buy that.
Because they had a second printing for issue 1 too.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm just like, where is it?
Because
it came out a few weeks ago.
They got several covers for it.
Yes.
For the first
a whole bunch
issue.
of covers.
I was in a store today, not my regular store, but another one. And I swear to God, I saw maybe 5 different variant covers for Dark Blood.
If you go there, just if you see one, scoop one up.
Listen, I will make a special trip to go there. You just have to remind me, and I will do that.
I wish you had told me that before now, because I just saw some on the shelf of my LCS.
Dang. Like I went there today and I scooped up like Honor in Darkness, but I also scooped up 2 Moons. So I've been eyeing 2 Moons.
2 Moons is that book.
Oh, because you told me. And 2 Moons, like I've been looking for issue 1. They didn't have issue 1 still. I'm like, man, where's issue 1? Okay, it's gone. Like, where's the 2nd and 3rd printing? Not there. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and get 2, 3, 4, and 5 right now. So I bought 2, 3, 4, and 5 right now, and I went on Comixology and bought issue 1. I'm like, I gotta read this. So I just so I did the digital first one, and I got 2, 3, 4, and 5. Tomorrow morning, I'm digging in.
You need issue 1?
I mean, I did, but I mean, I could
digitally, right? You bought it digitally.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I got you.
Yeah. Hey.
I got an extra copy. I'll send it to you.
Oh, love. Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, what was the name of that website? What's the name of that for Black?
Black Mask.
Black Mask.
Just send me your address in the chat, Ryan. I'll send you that some more. Right.
What about you, Pat? You read anything?
I mean, besides, the ones you called out, but also, add to the list, Bitterroot.
Oh, of course. That was great. That was great.
Yeah, got it.
It's so good.
But I'm really trying to, Rodney Barnes, he's always giving love to Black Cotton. So I'm, trying to make sure that I also, stay on top of, anything he put out. So I got to go get that one.
Putting out a lot.
Yeah. So
he got James Bond coming out.
He got James Bond coming out.
Man.
Yeah. Dope.
Yeah.
He's got a spin-off to Philadelphia called Nita Hawes.
Nightmare Blog.
Blog. Thank you.
Right.
That comes out, I think, in the next month.
November.
Him and Jason Sean Alexander are doing that one as well. It's a spin-off that takes place. It's almost like a prequel to Philadelphia, where the main character, what's the young brother's name? Sangster Jr. was in Detroit, I guess he was, or someplace like that.
Baltimore.
Yeah, I think
Baltimore before he came to Philly, and he deals with some mystical elements out there.
Real quick, I'm on this Black Mass site. Mr. Robot was a comic book before it was a series.
I don't know.
Mr. Robot.
Yeah,
I remember the series. I don't remember if it was a comic book.
Well, I mean,
I think so.
On here.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, wow.
But that goes back to what we were talking about, you know, with the agents and everything. There is a lot of media, mainstream media, series, TVs, movies that originated from comic books. This is nothing new, you know. So they are really missing the boat. Look at how many indie comics are being optioned nowadays, you know. And the bad part about it is, going back to what Brian said, a lot of the creators are going to the table, you know, not represented. And especially, I would say, you know, people of color, because we don't have it in our families a lot of times. So, you know, it's almost like, you know, in the family, you know, what do you want? You want a doctor, you want a lawyer, you know, you want these different elements, and we don't have it.
Yeah. That's what's up.
But that's all right. We're going to change, you know, we're going to change the world.
Damn, Patrick always so damn positive, man. I love that.
Fine.
Yo,
I always feel so inspired when I talk to Patrick, man.
No doubt.
Hey, wait till Black Kind starts hitting all these panels in the next couple of years. You know, we gonna really drop some knowledge on people.
I'll be in the back of the hall going, I know those dudes.
I'm just excited for. I'm really excited for Volume 2. Like, just what it is and what it's called. I wish we could tell you the title of it.
I know.
Like, it's Black Cotton, but it's like, oh, this is what's next. And
look, I will sign a no disclosure agreement.
Oh man! So we won't have to wait long. Like Marco, and you know, shout out to him. He's doing such a phenomenal job. He's hit such a groove. Like the character, he's in the world, and he's whipping it out, and we can like see how he knows the story now. Like, you know, it's in him. It's a part of him.
Yeah.
Like, he's in that groove now.
You would think he's black.
It's like the Zone, right? Like the Zone is described as like the bucket was so big, it was like I could shoot it in, it would just fall right in. Like, that's where he's at right now. And man, it's some pages that he sent for issue 7 that I'm just like, wow, that's crazy right there.
Yeah.
So he's already started working on issue 7. Wow, that's great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we almost done with the artwork and everything for issue 7. So yeah, we don't play, man. But you know what? Let me give a shout out also to Mom and Sons, Mom and Sons Comics, because they really showed us some love, especially at Awesome Con. They here in Virginia, but you can catch them on Instagram and Facebook. But you know, I met them at Fredericksburg, at the Fredericksburg Comic-Con. They opened their booth in the Richmond Comic-Con. I went out there, you know, sat with them, signed some comic books, but they really showed us some love at Awesome Con. Yo, when I showed up at Awesome Con, they already had a line of people waiting to get their books signed. You know, and then they also had CBCS facilitator there who took almost all the books, because people got they got it signed, and then they was like, I want it graded. I had this one cat who he got the whole set of 1, 2, and 3, right? And he wanted me to sign it and also put Black Cotton, right? Black Cotton, on it. So all of his is signed and got Black Cotton written on it.
Oh, that's dope, man.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
So
so it was just so cool to walk up to the table and you got people waiting, like, yo, I've been, hey, sign my book.
What does that do to your ego? Be honest. What does that do to your ego? Be honest. What does that do to your ego?
Hey, it makes you feel great, man. It really does, especially when
I'm Kanye. I'm Kanye.
Speaking of mental health.
Hey, I felt like Kanye when he got on the stage with Taylor Swift.
I love me like Kanye loves Kanye.
I'm gonna let you speak, but but no, it felt very good, especially to see diversity in the people. That's the thing that still trips me out, to be honest, is how diverse our audience is. For it to be a minority-driven comic book, to have so many, different races show love to it, that's a phenomenal feeling right there.
That's good, man. That's real good.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I mean, you guys are everywhere, man. There's not a single comic dealer that's not familiar with Black Cotton. That's significant.
What about merch? Is there merch on? Well, let me ask this: do you
There's
guys
merch
have
on the
your
website?
own website? And I know Scout has one, but do you guys have your own website to sell your stuff or no?
Not yet.
Not yet. We are working on it. So we're planning about volume 2 for the Black Cotton website to be up.
Cut out the middle.
Good.
You said what?
I heard you.
Cut out the middle, man.
I love me like Kanye loves Kanye.
That's funny. Well, fellas, is there anything else that we need to touch on?
Oh God.
Well, when y'all gonna put the word out, man?
Hey! I know what you're talking about.
Okay. I'm just.
It's still mum the words.
I'm in here like Pookie,
We're waiting on some proof of concept, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Hey, here's what I say, man. We love speaking with y'all, and we working on some things, and once we get it to a point, we can't wait to tell y'all gonna be the first. You kind of caught a glimpse of me and Brian talking, before you hit the record button, so just keep that, in the back of your mind, because man, that's gonna be something else from the Black Cotton creators.
Well, we're looking forward to it. So when does 6 officially drop? When is it supposed to officially drop? Everything else aside.
So 6, the date is supposed to be October. It's the second Wednesday in October.
Second Wednesday in October.
Supposedly. But
so that would be October 13th.
Let's look at that date tentatively, because the printer, you just never know.
Right.
But it's definitely in October.
Yeah.
Okay. So then go ahead.
Oh, here's what I'm gonna say, just for our people and our fans. Me and Brian get as frustrated as y'all when our books don't come out when we think or when we were told that they are coming out. It is so frustrating, because especially a lot of times we find out the same time y'all find out, which we think is a load of crap, especially as the creators, because we put out word. So we find it, very frustrating. And that is something that we are definitely, consistently working on. because we think that's just bad business, you know.
So is it Scout or the publisher or somebody else who's behind the delays?
It's a multitude of things. I think it boils down to one word: communication.
Yeah.
You know, if people aren't communicating, then guess what? You miss out on things. It's simple communication.
I appreciate that, because you guys are the creators. You're frustrated. I'm the promoter, because I do my Black comic pre-orders. People rely on my Black comic pre-orders, and I say Black Cotton's coming out this week.
Damn.
People like, Paul, you said Black Cotton's coming out. I went to the store, it's not there. You lied to me.
Yeah. I know. It's a thing that we have been trying to work out, and unfortunately, you know, with the indie comic book community and the smaller publishers. When I say smaller publishers, like behind Image, you know, from printer to diamond and the time frame and the books, all of the lines of communication just do not work the way they should.
Scout uses diamond.
Scout uses diamond, lunar. And there's a third Canadian distributor as well, Universal, I believe. So there's a lot of lines and a lot of lines of communication, and from printer to printer to printer. You know, it's just making sure that the bandwidth is there, and just having the communication there. So, you know, some of it's a learning process, and, you know, we're all in it together, and, you know, we're all kind of elated about Black Cotton coming out together, but also frustrated together. So, you know, it will all work itself out.
Like you said, it's a learning and growing process. So by 2022, hopefully all the kinks will be worked out and things will be released when they say they're supposed to be released. Guys, it's been another fast 2 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
As always, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your information. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to talking to you in October at some point, another Friday. I can say without hesitation that this is consistently the best 2 hours I spend in a week. I absolutely enjoy doing this, and I enjoy talking to you guys, and I really appreciate the time that you invest talking to us and the people who sign in and watch the streams. Really, really appreciate it, for real.
I definitely appreciate it. Look, I like hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Is anyone online? Because I'm trying to give...
This is through YouTube, so I don't know how this is going to work.
Oh, man.
I mean, maybe people may not
somebody's
watch
on YouTube
live, but they will watch it eventually.
Okay, so here's what we do. We'll set up something when you post it on Facebook. We'll set up something like a number, like if they comment or something, we'll take down their name. If they comment, okay, here's what we do. Make it up on the spot. If you post Black Cotton, just say Black Cotton. We'll get down your name and we'll do a drawing, and we'll send 4. The 4 that come out, we'll get signed books.
I'll put that in the posting.
Sign these.
And that's
post Black Cotton, you'll be entered into a drawing to get a free copy of the variant for Black Cotton 5. I'll do that. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
Fellas, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Patrick, remember what I told you? Stretch. Right? Take your Motrin or whatever beforehand. It'll be to your benefit. Have fun, be safe. Don't want you ended up on one wheel like your boy Brian over here.
I know.
You don't want to be like this.
Right, exactly. Guys, we'll talk to you later on. Once again, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's great, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Guys.